Hello and welcome to Winter Disco Tabletop Gaming. We're checking out two new 40k models. It's been a while since we've seen some new 40k. Yes, we've seen some Kill Team, so technically, yes, we can argue that it's 40k, but specifically for 40k. So the two models we're going to be looking at is Castellan Crowe, which came out a few days ago. Sorry, I should say the article came out a few days ago and got shown off. And then we're also going to check out one of the new Thousand Sons Infernal Masters, which look stunning. Just like a chef's kiss right there. I love it. But Castellan Crowe, so he gets a new upgraded model. Still the funky sword, seriously such a good sword. And one thing you'll notice straight away, this is not a Primaris Marine, but the scale for a Firstborn Marine is different here. This is an upscaled Firstborn, by far and away upscaled. It looks like the lower torso, hips, stomach area has been extended to a degree. It is a very, very interesting development. We've always known that the Astartes, the original, even back to Rogue Trader days or pre-Rogue Trader days, the Space Marines were always stocky, hunched over, squatting, more squatting than squat. Almost like they're perpetually with their knees bent forward and then almost falling forward over. So the scale has always been a little weird. But with this new Castellan Crowe model, it's definitely a lot taller, definitely a lot more elongated, much more human, much more realistic scaling. And you can see that in the chest, like I said, but you can also see it in the legs, particularly the lower legs. The upper legs look very short, but then you have the lower legs. And it is partly the armor design as well. You've got that mark of armor that doesn't have the knee pad, which I love this design of armor, which is why I'm so excited for Horus Heresy box set when that comes out. Ooh, you know, there's just this scaling, and that's the first thing that you see. And that's why it feels a little bit off. And I don't mean off in a bad way as such. I think one of the problems is the arms don't seem to be long enough. So when you stand up, if you stand up straight, your hand will reach sort of halfway down your thigh. In this case, if he puts his arms straight down, Castellan Crowe's hands won't reach there. So his arms feel a little bit small. It feels like they weren't upscaled. And I think that's probably on purpose so you can reuse different arms for the body. So if you do want to take this body, you can use different arms from different Marines. That's just the feeling that I get. So that's like the first thing that jumps out at you. I'm not a Grey Knights fan at all. I'm really not. I don't particularly get it for some reason, and I don't know why. I know they're all very powerful psychers. I love the history, but from a model perspective, I don't get it, and I don't particularly like it. I think it's the armor and the coloring of the armor, this silver, this grey gunmetal silver, almost a blue silver. I don't particularly like that, and that's complete personal preference. And that's fine, we can all have personal preference. But with this model, I love the nuanced attention to detail. And one you look at, you'd be like, oh, is this nuanced at all? It's ostentatious, it's over the top. It is, but not really over the top and ridiculous as you would get with some of the more ornate Space Marine models, particularly the character models. You don't have the over-the-top edging around the armor panel. So you look at the legs, a lot of the times on the elite models, the different character models, there'll be much more banding and ridges and borders around the different armor panels. So on the lower leg, you would get extra paneling around like the bottom curve over the foot or above the knee. And in this case, you don't get it, which is actually really do like that. It's much more simplified, refined, elegant even design work in there. It is still very Grey Knights. We've got the book and the sword, as you would with a Grey Knight, and purity seals at the woo-ha, because you got to have purity seals. One thing I do love, absolutely do love about this, and this goes through that simplified design, this style of armor, the particular mark that they're using here, and you see that in the legs, how it's not over the top or ostentatious. You don't have the knee pads, but you have that banner, which is so second edition. I just feel like they've almost taken a banner pole from second edition, whacked it on and said, job done. One thing I do miss about contemporary 40k Space Marines is the lack of banner poles on the backpacks. I feel like they should have a hell of a lot more. So one thing we do get, and it's definitely worth touching on here, is the comparison with the new model and the old model. You can see it is almost not really a new model as such. It's just a reworking. It is the same character, essentially the same model, just contemporized. I don't know when the original Crowe model was released. It doesn't look that old. I would say 15, 20 years, if probably not even 20 years, 15 years, we'll go with that. You could still use that today and people would be like, yeah, that's a really cool model. It's not over the top. It's really dignified, refined, not ostentatious, which I think is one of the problems I have with the Grey Knights. I feel that all their adornment, all their purity seals and books and chains and all over the top. I just feel it's just too much for me to deal with. And that's coming from someone as a Blood Angels fan. So go figure there. But you can see it still has a lot of the same cues, particularly if you look at the legs. You do have almost the exact same regalia, the same text there, you know, the Eternal Guardian text embedded into the armor. All the stuff is very, very similar, essentially the same. One of the biggest upgrades is the sword. It's a beautiful sword, not just the paint job. I love the paint job there, but I've just noticed, even though I've been looking at these models or these photos for so long since the images got released, I've only just noted there's a skull in the warp storm coming off the sword, the wisps of warp coming off the sword there. Beautiful. Like I said, I'm not a Grey Knights fan as such. I appreciate this model in a massive way. I think it's a really solid model. Just from a design perspective, it's not over the top, it's not ostentatious. I feel like using the word ostentatious today, just in that mood. It's a really good update to a model that was already very strong. So I'm keen to see how this lines up with other Firstborn Marines, just to see how it is. There was a question when people first saw it and be like, oh, is this Primaris Grey Knight? Are they doing that? No, it turns out this is just a normal Space Marine. Well, when I say normal, it's Castellan Crowe, so definitely not normal at all, but you know what I mean. They've upscaled it a bit to get it more in line with, I guess, true scale. So now we have a reworking of a hero. We need a new bad guy. And when I say a new bad guy, we need a whole range of bad guys, a whole plethora. We get one. It's fine. We get the new Thousand Sons called an Infernal Master, a very cool looking model. Again, in the same line as the Castellan Crowe model. This isn't over the top. I feel that when designing Thousand Sons models, you can take it to the extreme. And for me, the Thousand Sons are another army that the design I don't particularly like. I understand it. I understand the influence of ancient Egypt and all that stuff. I get that. I completely get that. I mean, there is a lot of I like about this model though, but there's also probably outweighs the fact that I don't like it, which is really difficult. One thing I don't like, and you can argue that this is okay, I don't like it, is the horns coming out of the helmet. Yes, I know that Magnus has these nipple horns. That's fine. I get that's the linking iconography between the two, because when you do look at Magnus, he doesn't really have Thousand Sons iconography, not too much, not like the overwrought design that the Thousand Sons models have. And you do get all the trimmings that you normally do with a Thousand Sons, of the gold trimmings with different things, and then the different bands of blue and yellow. And it's a color combination that is striking, yes. I get it. It stands out. I don't like it though. I feel like there's just a lot going on visually. You've got a lot of vertical lines. You've got a lot of horizontal lines. You've got a lot of straight lines. You've got a lot of curved lines. You've got lots of various different shapes. Like when you look at the legs, you've got a bird skull. You've got sun rays. You've got straight bands of color. Then on the other leg, you've got that big knee pad of gold with all like round shapes above an all-seeing eye with the rays coming out. So you've got circles, lines, diagonal lines, different scales of detail in there. I find that's really difficult to look at when you compare it to the Castellan Crowe model. It has a lot of stuff, but it's all big stuff. So you've got the Grey Knights iconography of the book and the sword. You've got the text. It all stands out. And with Thousand Sons, it almost becomes like this confusing visual geometric mess. And that's really where I've always had the problem. But regardless of that, let's talk about some cool things. I love the flames coming out of his backpack. It's almost like this living fire that it is magical in essence, and it takes on all these various different forms, which is very reminiscent of the Tzeentch iconography that you can see on the staff. How you have the eye with the rays and almost like that burning flame behind it. And I can imagine the flames from the backpack change shape and hold its shape and change in geometric patterns and different sigils and runes. I find that like very interesting. And you've got two little familiars there. So on the text itself, with the familiars that you can see, they have a specific name in this, Tutelaries. Tutelaries? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. So Tutelaries, they have little familiars because they're essentially witches in a way, kind of sorcerers, more sorcerers than witches. So it's an interesting model. I mean, I would get rid of the horns. I don't think the horns are necessary. I really don't. I don't think it really suits this model. It feels like they're put on there to tie it back to Magnus, but I don't think it's necessary. You have all these other very straight geometric lines, and then you have this curvy horn that comes out with a horn-like texture that doesn't come up anywhere else on the model or in the range as such, apart from Magnus. So it seems a bit odd to do that. I am a big fan of cloaks over the shoulder pads for some reason. I don't know why. It's like a nod to like, this is a commander. This is someone who leads, gives you that impression. But let me know what you think. Like I said, I don't particularly like the overall aesthetic and design of the Thousand Sons. I can appreciate it. I get it. I understand it. I just find there's too much going on. It maybe just hurts my eyes and I need to get my glasses checked. I feel the overall design of a Thousand Sons doesn't work for me. So I'm already going in sort of analyzing and reviewing this model with an idea already in mind of how I'm going to approach it. But let me know. For those out there, you know who you are. Good old command rock down the bottom. We're back, baby. We're back. And I forgot to say Castellan Crowe has a command rock as well. If you have got this far, hit that like button. Let YouTube know that you've liked it and other people might like it too. So I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.